Tell you them eyes. And India got some beautiful women too.
Hola and bienvenidos. This is Julie.
And this is Chantel, and we are Viera Vida.
Welcome back to the show. We're so excited to be here today. Today is going to be another action-packed, fun-filled episode. We may or may not have guests, but whether we do or not, we are here, Chantel and I, and we are going to be getting a little deep, right?
Yeah.
But before that, how are you doing? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
I know. We haven't really talked in a while, and we haven't seen each other in a long time.
Yeah.
The last time we seen each other pre-COVID.
Yeah, technically. And then, I mean, I feel like our conversations on Instagram and stuff don't count.
Correct. Because there's so much stuff, in the soul when you're friends with people that you don't really get to the deep part of it when you're on Instagram and talking through text, not to see each other like, friend, let me tell you. And it's like, what? Why didn't you call me? Like, I don't know. And then this, so it's
with our whole cafecito conversations.
Exactly. So I'm a little bit sleepy, but so I'm gonna go ahead and get right into. Wait, how you doing, girl?
First I'm of all, good. Get into whatever it is you need to get into.
That's kind of rude. I just hijacked the how you doing part. So I'm gonna jump into the roses section now because it goes to a story that I kind of left Julie hanging on while we were waiting to come on air, and she was just like, "How are you gonna do that to me?" So
this is true. So if you're new around here, our roses is where we celebrate people here on the earth while they're living. Instead of giving them their roses, why wait till they pass? So Chantel, go ahead and kick us off.
All right. So I want to give roses to the pediatricians with the Einstein here in Philadelphia, but specifically Pennypack. Julie's face like, what happened? Because I've had to call, when you're a parent and stuff happens after hours, you call your pediatrician's office, and the on-call pediatrician or nurse practitioner calls you back. They ask you questions, talk you through things, and give you advice of what you should do. I've had some really good conversations. I'm sorry, Julie. I've had some really good conversations with some of the doctors and nurse practitioners. And some I've had I don't know if I trust what you say, right? Even though I know I'm not the medical professional, but that sounds a little silly. Like when Nehemiah broke his foot, and the nurse practitioner was like, oh, if he's walking around, he's not complaining, he should be fine. No, Linda, I don't even know if that was her name. Sorry, just using the Linda thing. His foot was swollen the next day. We went and got x-rays. It was broken. So anyway, yesterday, Eliana's playing inside this small little basket. And I look over, I'm like, what are you doing, silly? She's just having a little time of her life. And Nehemiah's like, oh, she was in that earlier because I had to step into the office earlier. So Nehemiah's telling me, oh, she was playing in that basket earlier. Well, next thing I know, as I look away, I hear this loud bang, and I look over, and my baby's face is on the hardwood floor, and she
start with me
and just cries. And I immediately, the first thing out of my mouth was, I should not have let you play in that. And I threw my phone, went and grabbed her. Her face, because she's crying huge, I'm able to see all her teeth are there, but her lips bleeding. So I, run into the kitchen because Chris is there. I'm like, Chris, I need you. I'm a little bit panicky, but also knowing I got to help her. So I try to turn the water on. I'm like, no, not water, compress. Chris, paper towels. Get some paper towel. We get the bleeding to stop pretty quick. And, she doesn't want anybody to touch. She's hugging onto me, but does not want Chris touching her. She's just like, no, get off. No, we're trying to put an ice pack on it. That's making her more agitated. So we finally stop, and she puts her head on me and stops crying. Her lip is huge. Top lip is black and blue. I was concerned because in this time of this pandemic and COVID-19, I don't want to take my children to the hospital if I don't have to. So now it's like, what do we need to look for if she needs stitches? Those things. And the doctor that I spoke to last night that called us back was great. She asked many questions, answered all our questions. From the information I gave her, she told me it does not sound like Eliana needs to come in and get stitches. She told us what to look for if she does indeed need it, like today. Certain things to look for if she needs to be seen. Eliana did act like herself after. She allowed me to put ice cube on it. She was acting like herself, but more irritable. So if I tried playing with her hair, she was like, stop. But she was still dancing to the video music on the TV. Yeah, so I looked at it today. She has little gashes, but nothing, not gashes, correction, little cuts.
I know.
She has little cuts. I need to use the proper terminology here. She has little cuts, but no gashes. She's talking fine, but her lips a little swollen. And I noticed last night, because trying to fall asleep with her was tough because any little movement woke her. The lip started to go down, the top lip, because that's really swollen. And that started to go down. But every time she would go to nurse and I would check it with a flashlight, it seemed that it would like make it swell up more. So I think nursing is going to prolong a little bit of, the healing. But she's acting like herself. All of her teeth are there. Again, they look like just cuts. It's still like, I'm still a little bit emotional because I'm blaming myself, even though I know it was an accident. And I know but it's like, goodness, I shouldn't have let you play in this little basket. And,
that's how they learn too.
Yeah, that's true.
She's
that's true. Like, don't get in that basket again. And then now I already know in my mind, I'm telling myself, Chantel, it's okay. It was an accident. Cause I have a feeling that I'm going to be super cautious now. Like, no, like I was telling Nehemiah, listen, don't flail around your sister. Her lips, she has boo-boos on her lips. Like, she's like very like wanting to play in her face. Like,
no, don't beat yourself up over that. I don't know if you guys don't really know Chantel how I know Chantel. Chantel is very cautious about everything, food, about play, about, everything. And so this is not your fault. You know what I'm saying? Like, she plays and, that actually sounded really cute to me. She was playing in the little basket, and so these things happen. It's not like you were like, yeah, because I saw her playing on the top of the stairwell, and I was like, all right, chill there for a minute on the top of the stairwell by yourself or something crazy.
I know.
Yeah, don't start with that. And that's going to be a perfect segue into today, where we find ourselves feeling so much guilt for things that we can't really control. But I'm not going to ruin it. Wow, I'm so glad she's okay.
She is. Even this morning, she woke up asking for her little song she likes to listen to.
Okay. What's she doing right now? We might want to.
Right now it's Basho and Friends on YouTube. So it's like mostly Spanish, but they're starting to do other languages too. So she'll be like, what does she call it? Cuatro, cinco, seis. Like she'll say, cinco, seis is what she calls it.
So cute. I can't take her.
But then she's upset when they get past the cuatro, cinco, seis part of the song. And then she wants me to rewind it. And I'm like, sweetie, I can't keep rewinding this every time. And then she gets like upset. Like, no, stop. No, help. Cuatro, cinco, seis. And she's like pushing the remote. Like, come on. Then,
damn, she's trying to jam out to it. That's
to that one part. And then when he starts singing other things, she does his hand movement. It's funny. It's so cute. You would die if you would.
I love it. Oh, also, shout out to the people over there at Einstein's, and who else is?
Yeah, she I can't remember the doctor's name, but she really made me feel like she cared and she was listening, and she gave us the information we needed to make the decisions that we needed to make of, whether we decide to go in or not, which we decided not to based off of what she gave. She was thorough and took her time and was patient. So
that's really important. And I think it's really hard to find, and no offense to the doctors, nurses, and everything out there, but actually not so much nurses. It's hard to find doctors that are empathetic in that way, and really good people, have good people skills. I don't know that my experience is the norm, but I've had a really hard time feeling comfortable around a lot of doctors.
That's completely understandable, because a lot of times it's like, okay, what are you here for? Okay, thank you, next. I got to get my next patient. And that's sometimes what it feels like. So they don't really listen because they have other people they have to get to.
Right. And the system is built this way. And I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there, that I do have a doctor who is amazing. And oh my gosh, like probably one of the best people, like just sweet and empathetic and understanding, and also extremely intelligent. And then he ended up going through some health issues, and he became even more empathetic because he understood the system. I'm saying this because I had an appointment with him, and he does not rush me out of my appointments because this is an issue that I've been dealing with for my whole life. And he is the one person who like sort of gets it, but still doesn't get it. But he takes it as a challenge instead of like, oh, I'm going to dismiss it as something else. I don't know. Anyway, I was in his office just before COVID, and I was in there for 2 hours. 2 hours, you guys. This was a half-hour appointment usually. We were in there for 2 hours because he just got back from, getting his biopsy and he's got a lot going on. And the insurance company actually billed me an extra few $100s because I was in there for an extended amount of time, it said.
Oh.
Like, I already paid to see this doctor, and now the insurance company's like, yeah, but you saw him for a long time, so we're gonna ask for a lot more money. Luckily, my husband works in financial services and was able to work that out, but the system really is not built for you to create these relationships with your doctor.
Right, and that trust, and now, not saying that this is gonna happen with you, but in the back of your mind, you can be like, okay, I can't be in here long, so let me say what I have to say, and that can make you miss certain important details that you might need to share from, whatever you might be going through from the last time you saw your doctor.
Right. In a typical situation, yes, because if Julio didn't work in financial services, I already told him, I was like, oh my gosh, I was in there too long. I don't know what to do. I have to talk to, maybe I'm going to email him and all this stuff. And he's like, no, babe, I'm going to take care of it. But I already had that thought. So yeah.
Shout out to Julio, because he's also helped Chris and I with some bills that we got and how to navigate them.
Right. And then also a good half hour of that conversation was me building that rapport with him. I really did care about what he was going through. And so we spent some time talking about his health and I've been with him since before his daughter was born. So I'm like asking about his daughter and all kind of things and seeing pictures, and we're watching videos, and then you really feel comfortable enough to be like, oh, okay, well, in this intimate experience, this happened or whatever it could be. So, matter of fact, my shout out of the week and my roses should go to my cardiologist, Dr. Cooper. He is the head of electrophysiology at Temple, which is like the part of cardiology that works with the connections to different parts of the body and stuff. And he's amazing. So if you guys are looking for a great cardiologist, that entire department is great. But I literally threw every single doctor in Temple Cardiology, and finally they were like, all right, you got to go to our doctor. And he's amazing. So shout out to him.
That's awesome. That's
really shout out all the day.
Headband of the day.
Headband of the day. Okay. Matter of fact,
what happened?
Do you have any fun trends that you want to bring up? Because we're going to get deep, but I want to give the guys a little bit of time before we go to our first break to, get into this call. So
let's see.
What is trending? What are you into? I do have something in mind. Do you know the TikTok where they're like, somebody come get her, she's dancing like
No, I haven't seen those.
Oh my gosh, you guys. My point in bringing this up is if you go on TikTok, you will have so many songs stuck in your head and you will sing them at the most random times. So fair warning.
Yeah. That's funny because I talked to Miguel from Inclusivo. I talked to him last week, and he had brought up some things. He was like mentioning things and saying phrases, and I'm like, I don't know that. He's like, oh, you didn't see that on TikTok? And I'm like, no. I'm like, Julie has asked, like, who let you on TikTok? But like, he
texted me a couple of videos from TikTok. If you guys have not seen our previous episodes, Miguel is one of our almost patriarchs, right? He's older and wiser and more experienced and all. So him being on TikTok is really great.
It is really funny. But he stays. The funny thing is, so not to go off a separate tangent, he keeps himself like relevant. Like he stays up to date with the words, the lingo. And I remember he said something to me one day, and I'm like, how do you know like to say that? And he said, listen, I'm around my nephews, I'm around them, and I hear how they talk. So, and the way he does it, it's not older cheesy either. Like it just flows as if, sometimes I know how like to say these things. I know these words. So yeah, that's
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to, so I don't want to hijack this, probably going to hijack a little bit and then we can go backwards. But there's something I wanted to do, and I was hoping to do it last week, but then stuff happened, but here we are.
Do it.
So the last time that we met and actually had a live show, Julie had asked me a question about my experience, right? And how I felt about, because we were talking about race and being Black in this country and Black and brown and everything else going on. And I had mentioned about the police. And at the time, I had a migraine that I was fighting. I ended up being down that day with like an ice pack. My son, for those of you who did not watch, busted in the room because it was his bedroom that I was in at the time because my floor in the basement was getting done. So he busted in looking for clothes. So my thought was interrupted at the time and the show had to go on. And I had made a comment about my aggression towards police, right? And it's really, I'm defensive. I'm on the defense when I have come across certain interactions with police officers. And that is because of, one, first and foremost, the experience that my father went through, right? So hearing his story, one time I was in the car with my father. He hasn't been pulled over much, but the one time that I was in the car with him, the first words out of his mouth to the officer, because he didn't think he was doing anything wrong in how he was driving, "Are you pulling me over because I'm Black?" So to hear these narratives.
You said that?
He did. Girl, he did. He laughed about it. Matter of fact, we were laughing about it the other day.
Because I was
in the area where he got pulled over. Like, I was in that area, like, I think he got pulled over here. And I saw him. And he was like, you know what? I thought that's where it was too. So we laughed about it. But yeah, so because of the experience that he had, that in his mind, you know, especially if you feel that you are obeying the traffic laws and now you're being pulled over, is it because of what I look like? Because, you know what I'm saying? So in hearing his experience and then in my own experience, I can count on one hand how many times I've been pulled over by myself. I've only had two, most of the cops that I dealt with during those times, they let me go. There were times I got pulled over. I should have gotten a ticket. They let me go. The other times when I got pulled over by these two police officers, thought it was baloney. Whatever. But there's been times when I've been in the car with Black people and we've been pulled over when I'm like, what the heck are we being pulled over for? Right? So now, because I'm sitting here like, why are we being pulled over? The cop tells us the reason. I feel it's baloney. I get mouthy.
You get mouthy?
I get mouthy. Because I do.
You guys, this is news to me.
I do. Because of, knowing my father's story and then seeing certain things, hearing certain things. And now here I am in the car with other Black people and we're being pulled over for what now? Oh, hold on. No. That's not how it's going to go down. And so I get on the defensive because of that. Now, do I think all cops are bad? No. I know some police officers. I even have a family member. At least I got my thought out today, right? A quick surprise visit by Nehemiah.
For those of you who are not watching online, hi, Nemo. The cutest little hand popped into the screen, and it is Nehemiah checking in on his mama. And it's the cutest moment. And that's, you know what we're about here on this show is general authenticity. So bear with us.
I tried to mute it, and I hit the audio mute and not my microphone mute, so you guys heard the whole conversation.
So I just want to make a comment about that. And Chantel and I have this relationship that this won't feel like an attack, but let me know how you feel, and I'm going to try to be careful. I do feel that, and that I guess aggression sometimes when pulled over, like once Julio and I got pulled over, but the cop was like pushing him, like he was just on the back of the car and Julio couldn't slow down and like so Julio got mouthy, and I wanted to get mouthy, but I was scared to, and here's why. Because I'm light skinned, right? So let me get mouthy and it affected my husband who is dark skinned. That isn't fair, you know? And so I wonder, has that crossed your mind? Like, how do you feel in those situations? Is it scary for you like it is for me?
So the second time, there was a time Chris was pulled over and I was in the car with him and he was driving. Now, I know he was speeding because I looked over at the speedometer because I knew the area we were in.
Uh-huh.
But what the cop tried to say, he clocked him out. I was like, wait. I looked over. He wasn't going that fast. Nice try, sir, right?
I did.
And at the end of that interaction, the cop did let him go with like a lesser ticket. He ended up being nice about the situation, even with my mouth. And Chris ended up saying to me, like, can you please? And by him saying that to me, I think I finally, at that moment, took a step back, like, okay, I'm very light-skinned. My hair doesn't have a kink to it or a curl. My husband's clearly Black. You can see it. I need to then start watching how I talk for his sake. You know, like, I did have that thought after he said something to me. So yes, I understand that. And I had to start paying attention to that, especially with not saying that this is anything new, what's going on. I just think it's because of our cell phone, social media. Like, we're starting to see it more and more on the news, it's in our faces more. It did kind of pull me back a little bit to, okay, if he's telling me as a Black man, I need you to back up a little bit, then I have to respect that. And I understand it. But yeah, so I just wanted to finish that thought from the last.
No, I think that's the perfect segue, because that's actually where we're going today. And where we're going today is to a conversation about identity, especially identity within the Latino community. And we can only, like we say 100 times, we can only speak from our own experience. So today we're going to have a discussion about identity and how we see ourselves within the Latino community. And so just after this break, we're going to come back and we're going to have these conversations. If you were not with us last week, or the last time that we were live, then you may not know that we began the conversation talking about racism within the Latino community and our misunderstanding of, what it means to be Black. And all of that in light of what's going on in the world. Today, we'll talk about what it means for us to exist in this world, coming from the heritage that we come from, and also what that means in our efforts to aid the Black Lives Matter movement. So stick with us. Just after this break, we will be back with more discussion.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Hola, bienvenidos, and welcome back to the Viera Vida show here on USA Radio. We're so excited that we are back live. Unfortunately, not in the studio yet, although other shows are. So if you want to see some of those shows in the studio, you can check that out at USA Radio, their YouTube page, which is actually USA Media. Anyway, today, Chantel and I are here, and we are hosting an episode based off of our Inclusivo series, which is to challenge the dynamics of bias. Chantel, just before this segment, you were telling us about your, I guess, I'm trying to find the right word for your feelings towards
defensiveness.
Defensive.
Going on the defense, being like very defensive.
And,
yeah.
you know, that is a common theme right now, especially with I guess the Black Lives Matter movement is based off of one of the premises of their actions is to defund the police. And so I wanted to talk about what that means and what our feelings towards that are, because I do agree with you, although I find myself defensive towards a lot of the, you know, institutions such as the police, or in general, I tend to have an issue with authority. There is a need for them. And so understanding the difference between defunding and eliminating the police, I think, is really important and one of the biggest contentions within this argument. Chantel, how do you feel about this premise?
So it's been in the news, and it's, well, I don't know how much in the news, my news, which is Twitter, the Instagrams. People have brought up Camden and how Camden went and they, you know, restructured their police department, how they fired everybody and started over with I believe the mayor who came in did that. Now, she didn't do it without a fight. She didn't do it without being fearful of her life, unfortunately. But she was successful at, let's get rid of everybody. Let's do retraining. We hire the good ones. We hire the ones that we know are here to actually protect and serve and to do what they said they were going to do when they took that oath to protect the people of the city. And it made a huge difference for them. I believe they said that crime was down. And then even the interaction with the police and the community, there was a better relationship there. There wasn't as like the tension that was there before, the mistrust. That's not going on there now. So if
Camden was a scary place.
Right, girl, yes it was. But if this United States of America, what we call United States of America, could follow that example and follow what they did for all of our cities and all of our townships and all the precincts, or something very close to that, then I think we might be going towards a better, things might start changing. It has to start changing, in my mind.
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, this ideology that is being created of defunding the police is just an aggressive word to get media, right? But generally, what does it mean? And it means reallocating funding, which is going to a super heavily funded organization and put it within the community and the municipalities and in ways that will also support the police and support positivity within our local and federal governments. And so this isn't an idea that we don't need police, because there are great police, and police are, you know, some of the most admirable of public servants. But when we have this institution that is not well trained, that is just being thrown money and gadgets, honestly. And when I say gadgets, I mean, you know, like the pepper sprays and all the way to guns, and being taught to use them instead of being taught how not to have to use them.
Right.
I think that's what we mean. And so I think the issue here with the crisis of defunding the police and that huge juxtaposition between the left and the right about our need for public safety as Americans is just in terms of semantics, because we do need the police. No one is saying that our safety and their safety of the good, you know, well-intentioned police is not important. It's just there are services that are not being funded properly, like our education system.
Correct.
So, you know, I think I honestly really do wish that it was literally, you know, addressed differently. The semantics were different, but I do believe that there are some checks and balances that need to be done within our police system.
Yeah, and I agree with you that it definitely needs to happen, especially because the brotherhood that there is in the police unions. But then, I feel like even Julie, if they use different words, and I'm not disagreeing with you, right, about if they use different words, they're gonna find some way no matter what words, you know what I'm saying? So, which I definitely don't disagree, because I can hear what you're saying of the words defund the police. If you use defund, it does sound like, no, we're completely getting rid of them. We're completely taking them away. You and I know that's not what it is. The people who started it know that's not what they're asking for, whoever started the hashtag or that saying. They're always going to find a problem. And what my hope is for this country is that those that are growing up now, like the children who are our future, literally, it's not like, it sounds so cliche to say it, but it's the truth. They're starting to recognize and they're starting to understand, and they will be the change of, no, we got to do things differently, because I don't like what's happening to people who don't look like me, people who do look like me. So we're going to come and unify, and we're going to try to do something different to make sure this does not happen once we are old enough to be in those seats and old enough to have those jobs and those roles.
Right. And I agree with you 1,000%. I do think, and I keep saying I think, because I want to make it clear that this is my opinion and this is not, universal. I do believe that we make it difficult for ourselves, and we make things more difficult. And when I say we, I mean minorities in general, when we try to be so aggressive in these ways. So in terms of the linguistic structure of, basically what I'm saying is words have power, and words are very important. And if that is the first message that you're putting out to the world, and a lot of people won't look any deeper, and it's sad, but generally the people who won't look any deeper are the people who are not already on your side. So it makes it more difficult, and therefore it makes the process longer and more arduous. Therefore, it's important for us to really consider the way that we label ourselves. And I think that's a conversation that we had here in Inclusivo, because we're talking about the identity of this organization and what we're here about. We went back and forth about what our name would be for Inclusivo. We were thinking words like diversity, and we were thinking words like Latinidad, and some of them were a little bit limiting. And we thought, you know what, we just want to be inclusive. And whatever that means to you, it can mean something completely different to you. And that's great, because it's not eliminating you. Right.
Yeah. And then, so not to push back, right? Like Julie said, we have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I think about, which they didn't have hashtags back then in the days of the 60s and, the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King's and the Malcolm X's. And to them, a hashtag was the pound sign, on the phone. But I just wonder how much of what seems to be aggression at times is the fact that people are tired.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000%. So and it's not, and a lot of times it's just a matter of not understanding.
Right.
If you don't understand someone and there's emotion behind something, a lot of times that's perceived as aggression. And the way that I was using the term aggression is going 100%. Like, I aggressively seek my goals, not so much aggression in the negative connotation of being sort of like hard-headed in that way. So you know what? Because words are so important, I'm going to find the synonym for the version of aggression that I was using. Okay, so you guys, what do you feel about this? Okay, so not in the form of hostility, not in the form of belligerence, but when someone goes towards their goals in a way of notwithstanding, and someone who is very dedicated and focused, that form. So yeah, very important to talk about that. And assertive, there's a difference between assertive and aggressive, but we're not going to get that deep into semantics here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I also feel like I completely agree with that. And there's going to be some people in school of thought that, no, we're still going to, I'm going to use lack of better words, right? Because I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying the people who are taking the more aggressive approach are not thinking. I don't want to say that. But I'm going to use those words. Let's think these things through a little bit more and try to figure out how we can be more effective, even in our being tired and being frustrated. And there's also the other side, which I get both sides of. We've tried that already. We've done that already. We're over that.
What's also sad is that what it feels like is the other side doesn't have to do any thinking, doesn't have to think things through as much, and can just sort of say what they want and it not be contorted in the same way. And that we've seen very straightforward with our president. Like, our president will combat media who very simply questions anything that he does, and it doesn't have to be that they're condemning it or anything. And I've seen on Fox News people have said certain things and it completely be twisted, whereas when I see, and I know this is going to sound like a very biased perspective, but you guys, I watch both left-wing and right-wing media in order to really form this perspective. It's not that I'm just, oh yeah, I know they do this, and then I haven't seen it. So then I see the same news coverage on a more democratic, left-wing outlet like CNN, and it's very simply a lot of times the facts. And it's, this happened, this is what he said to that, here's a picture of the quote, here's a video of the quote, and that's it, instead of putting this twist in this evaluation. Now, that has changed a little bit since COVID, because when someone pulls out a gun, you can't fight them with a sword. So I've seen it go back and forth, but in general, I've seen words twisted more from the right-wing side. And so they have to be less careful with their words. And why? Because we're focused on our fight. We're not focused on then having to do this extra little fight to figure out what they're saying.
Yeah.
So that's really sad too.
I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question. So have you seen the latest boycott?
Of Goya?
Yeah. How do you feel about that? So, if you want to share, if you don't, we can.
I think this is a good question, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm struggling in a lot of ways with this, and here's why. Because one person to me doesn't represent an entire group. And so I do understand, and for those of you who haven't seen this online yet, the Goya boycott began by the CEO at a White House press conference praising the work that Trump has done. And therefore, Latino culture, a lot of people, even outside of Latinos, but people who support Goya have decided we are no longer going to support you, and therefore we will not be buying Goya products. And a lot of people are throwing their products away in the trash and all kinds of things. Here's where I sit on that issue. This is so hard. So I do understand this cancel culture. In general, everybody's being canceled if they make a mistake. Everything is being boycotted if, one person represents negativity in some ways, and back and forth, right? I do think that the CEO of a company has a really huge impact on, how we perceive the entire company. I do not think the CEO is the end all be all. Therefore, I do think we need to sit back from Goya, but I don't mean forever in my life. I think until there's better leadership, maybe, and I'm not going to be throwing the products that I bought already, because it's not helping or hurting them if I throw them away.
They already got those dollars,
Who's going to waste food on top of that? If you guys are thinking about throwing your Goya products away, please give them to a food pantry or something, because I find that absolutely horrendous. I'm sorry. That's my judgmental tone right there. Do not throw food away, like, if it's good. They have that money already. You know what I'm saying? So I think, I'm going to sit back for a little bit. I have plenty of products in my pantry and I know how to make my own. I'm not saying that I'm canceling them forever. I do not support the CEO. I do not support his sentiments, and I will not. But just like I have often eaten at Chick-fil-A, even though, I know the CEO is not that great a person, because there are really great people who work there, and I find that their character in general has been better. And so it'll probably be the same for me with Goya. Right now, I'm on a little pause.
I'm on I don't need to buy your stuff right now either, because I think the best way to hit a lot of these corporations is in their pockets. And the CEO makes a lot of money, especially for these corporations. Like the checks they are getting are humongous. So, some people are like, oh, I've seen some opinions. We're just going to cancel somebody or boycott them because of their political opinions. And it's not so much their political opinions. It's who they are actually supporting, in my opinion. It's not the fact that, Trump is a Republican. It's what Trump is standing for, and the words that are coming out of his mouth, and the hurtful narrative that's coming out of his mouth that people in this country are buying, believing, and he is empowering these hate groups by the things that he is saying, coming from behind the podium and from behind the desk of the person who runs this country, right? So I agree that, yeah, I'm taking a pause. I'm not throwing any of my food away. I've already spent those dollars. They've already been spent. I'm going to use what's here. But I am going to, and the other great thing with us being in a city is there's so many different people here, and there's Latinos here, and we can go find a market where we can buy other products.
And
exactly. So I feel the same with you that, you know, hopefully this boycott, like you said, I don't want to cancel either, but it's a boycott until you do better, Goya, by who you're picking as your leader.
Right. 1,000%. I'm with that 1,000%. I do think that this poses a really big issue for Latinos, and a bigger issue than cancel culture and boycotts in other instances, such as the example I used earlier, the Chick-fil-A. And this is why. Whether or not we want to admit it, Goya has been a huge part of our identity. And like we said, we're talking about the different things in this world and that are going on right now that affect our identity. And yes, as a Latino, I have grown up on Goya. I was always super proud to support Goya. I have had really great experiences with people from them, from the organization. And to have one person speak out as the CEO means there are probably other people on the board who are supporting him. And so that's what we want to find out right now.
There you go.
We want to know, are you a free spirit right now, or is the board needing to be recomposed?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm waiting to see.
That's a good one. And then on the flip side to that, there's people who probably work there and work in the offices who do not share his same views at all. And now the whole organization is being seen by this person who's running everything. And it's funny you say that. A company that I worked for a few years ago, I had to call them to verify some invoices for one of our clients who I don't know if they did transportation for them or something. And the lady that I spoke to, so nice. I love when I get people on the phone, especially in like corporate America, and they're just so sweet, and anything you need, and and I was like, wow, that lady was so nice. And she was a Latina, and you know, this is Goya, and it's like, oh, that was refreshing. So yeah, there are some great people that work in there, just like any other corporation who unfortunately is supporting bigotry. But, you know, there needs to be a change, and they need to, you know, maybe that change will be in their pockets if they're not being supported financially.
Yeah. And what's really scary for me is Goya is a family-owned organization or company, family-owned company. So how does this affect that family? How does this affect... I just think there's so much more that we need to learn about. And I really want to know what their structure is of leadership. I want to know that I'm going to have to call up VIX because they are not ruining my entire identity, okay? I need to make sure everyone at VIX is cool because we're not playing this, okay? I'm going to have to start doing research, but I will say it would be really, really hard to eliminate every single organization based off of the comments of their CEO that we don't agree with. And so if you're going to do it with one, I would suggest going online, doing your little research and figuring out who you're supporting, because, you know, we're probably supporting other racists without even knowing it. We're probably falling into this capitalistic trap, and that's scary to me.
Yeah. We have a few comments. They agreed. They will not be buying any more products at this time, but they're also not going to throw away what they have in their pantries at this time.
Oh, hallelujah. Y'all, wasting food is crazy.
No, it is crazy, especially during this time of pandemic, and especially since I'm hearing stories of people starting to go back to hoarding again because, you know, things are in the uptick again as far as the numbers. So people are supposedly, the grocery stores are being like ran through again. Yeah.
Wow, you guys. Okay, so let's go back to this idea of identity, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the organizations that we are supporting or not supporting really do build our personal identity in terms of our brand identity, in terms of, for us, even our cultural identity. So what is the thought here? I think we need to have a challenge for ourselves. And that challenge would be to be that challenge would be to be that challenge would be to educate yourself more broadly on who you're supporting, as we mentioned a little bit earlier. But secondly is to really understand why these boycotts and such are taking place. So when I see something being boycotted, I do look it up, I figure out the articles, I try to figure out the history of the company, different things like that. Whereas I'm seeing a lot of people, and I mean, no judgment to whoever this is, but maybe try a different manner. And I'm seeing a lot of people who go online, they see a hashtag boycott Goya, cool, we boycotting Goya, and not knowing why. So if you can't discuss what it is that you feel about the situation, maybe don't post it yet. Maybe figure it out first, because that to me is very frustrating.
Yeah, and that can be more harmful to the movement than helpful.
Yeah.
Because then the others be like, see, you guys don't even know what you're doing. You're just boycotting everything and anything that offends you, or put your panties in a bunch and just calm down. And what's wrong with you guys? And I don't know why I'm starting to go to a Southern accent, because that's a little bit wrong with me. Not everybody in the South is, has those thoughts, but okay.
The movies.
Yes.
I've heard this quote, and tell me how you feel about it. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And I saw this on a post where someone was throwing away their Goya, and I asked them, why throw away the food that you already have? It became a whole thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And so I thought this person fell more on the fall for anything side, even though I agree with what they were standing for. Yeah. This is a conundrum for me. I can't figure out why. Can you walk me through this right now?
No.
I think my conundrum is that I think it's detrimental to the movement. I do. To any movement. I think it's because, and you might have answered this even before I asked the question, it's because it makes it harder for us to really have a powerful movement if anybody is just posting and doing whatever they want.
Correct.
Framing it.
Correct. And then that makes me think of, when Black Lives Matter first came out, when that movement first came out, and I want to start by saying conspiracy theories, but then I don't think they are. I think they have been proven that there have been some white supremacist groups who have been posing as Black Lives Matter to try to make the movement look like something it was not. Like, try to make it look like it was violent, try to make it look like, oh, they're just here to tear things up. And so I think they knew that narrative of, oh, if we can make this look like it's violent, they just want to burn our cities. They don't know what they're marching for, don't know what they're standing for, don't know, then we can just, oh my gosh, discredit the entire thing.
And that's what it is. It's discrediting. Yeah. And because there's so much money in right-wing media, I mean, there's just much more money that they're able to get this message out. They're able to buy ads a lot more effectively, and they're able to distribute their message. And when I say they, I mean whoever is against whatever cause it is that generally we're standing for. And so we have a couple of comments too. Miss Maria said, I agree, look into statements made before moving if it's not obviously apparent. Also, we all have a lot of resources where we can look into truths in order to stand. Yes, there's no excuse out here. It shows what the person is really made of and what in their hearts when they don't act or stand. What's in their hearts when they don't act or stand. And I think that was in response to the comments about the boycotts and the movements. So yeah, I think in general, these conversations are hard, but they're very important to have. And they help us understand who we are in this day to day. They help us understand what our identity is when we are creating posts on Instagram, when we're creating posts on Facebook, when we're having these conversations on the radio, because these conversations, whether it's just one person or two people who hear them, they do affect ideological sentiments, and therefore it creates movements over time. And so it's scary that people would go out without having done any research.
Right.
So can we take a couple minutes to shift gears?
Uh-huh.
And the gear I wanted to shift to, boom, boom, is back to the video.
Those who are watching and you're listening on air, Julie literally just said "room, room" and moved her hands like she's like doing a gear shift. So
yes, the gear I wanted to shift to is to have the last few minutes of this episode to talk about the Black in Latin America, or what is it? It's a series.
Yeah,
it's not a movie. Docu-series, and start having these discussions because we will continue watching the series throughout the Inclusivo summer. So the first episode that I watched was the one where it discussed Latin America from the perspective of Dominicans and Haitians, and so the island of Hispaniola. And it was very illuminating. What I learned was that more slaves were brought to the island of Hispaniola than the entire United States. And it's like the size of Maryland and New Jersey?
Yeah.
Like, it's tiny.
Yeah.
So this has created sentiments of racism between the Haitians and the Dominicans. And a lot of the Dominican culture was built upon denying its Blackness, and this is both social, systemic, and still perpetuating our ideologies today. So if you are struggling to understand what it is that makes up your identity, history, man, go read it from different perspectives and try to figure out what's going on, because that was illuminating to me. What did you take from that episode?
So watching these episodes, I did not realize at the time that I watched them. It was a few years ago. And I'd already heard where, people who spoke Spanish, who might have melanin in their skin, who are Black people, when you look at them, they're Black, did not feel Black. Like, I've already heard that. I've already heard, oh no, I'm not Black. I'm Dominican. Oh no, I'm not Black. I'm Puerto Rican. So I already knew about that. But to know that it was so steeped in the history of DR, so much of their leaders and their heroes were whitewashed. Their statues were whitewashed. They made their nose smaller. They made them look European, when in actuality, some of their heroes and the leaders of their country, or their forefathers, were Black.
Right.
Or they were mixed. Mm-hmm. And, it's, I'm going to say it, it's a self-hate, but it's a self-hate that they've been taught. Because it's what they see. It's in their education systems, obviously. And it's crazy when Haitian people and Dominicans, you guys are really brothers and sisters. Like, your family. It's just that the Haitian side speaks French.
Creole, yeah.
Creole, thank
French
you.
Creole.
And then, the Dominican side speaks Spanish because who stayed in those areas, and
they're colonized.
But they're like this. Your family should be unified, and the hatred and the separation and the split of that island is just crazy. And to see the history and to hear it and to know that I'm not surprised, but to know that, man, they whitewashed your heroes.
Well, here's why, because it was dangerous for them not to at one point. I'm not justifying it. I'm just expressing what the documentary said, because slavery was obviously their main form of, prosperity. That island, and Haiti specifically, was so rich because of sugar plantations. And so what happened is, once, slavery was ending there, they wanted to disassociate from all aspects of slavery.
So they stayed away from the plantations, and they stayed away from any of the work that they did while in slavery. Yeah.
And the Dominicans tried to stay away from their true roots of Africa. And it's sad that slavery still has this impact today. And crazy that the French would ask for reparations because their slavery was ended there. Absolutely insane. And the president of DR, Rafael Trujillo, who asked me, he's a racist. This was back then. Used to put white powder on his face. So it's just a matter of an identity crisis. So I suggest you guys check it out. Really Great documentary. It's actually on YouTube if you don't have access to Amazon Prime or PBS. So we will be watching that throughout the series. For those of you who don't know, we're starting to end our show 5 minutes before the hour to give the next folks a chance to clean the studios and get set up for the next show. So we are going to sign out, but we'll be here next week, just Chantel and I, to talk about a few more issues of identity.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a